I appreciate the offer, but I don't think going to the convention with you is a very good idea. Assistants don't go to conventions.
Listen, Beth, you've been my assistant for, what, a couple of months now? You know, you've got a lot of potential to move up in this organization, and I can help you do that. But it's up to you. Think about it. Okay?
That's just one example of sexual harassment on this tape.
Liz, is that a new tape?
New tape, old topic.
Sexual harassment, an old topic.
Sexual harassment is as old as the workforce itself. It's been around ever since people started working together. And now the United States Supreme Court has said that everyone knows that sexual harassment exists and that employers should be able to anticipate it, stop it, and prevent it from occurring in the workplace through employee education. That's what I'd like to talk to your staff about today.
Well, I have to tell you, they're looking forward to it.
Well, I'm glad to be here.
Good morning, Alan. You ready for the meeting?
Good morning, Faye. Yeah, I guess so.
Hi, Alan.
Hey, Bob. Facts on sexual harassment, I understand.
Fact. This meeting is cutting into my day.
There's more to it than just facts.
Yeah, like it's a personal matter. It's something everybody should take care of themselves.
Bob?
Oh, hi, Greg.
You're right, it is a personal matter, I know that, but it's also each and every person's responsibility and our commitment to make sure that the workplace is free from sexual harassment. Oh, by the way, anybody read this morning's paper?
No.
The company we do business with is being sued for sexual harassment. Now, our company's record is clean so far, and I want to keep it that way. So, I've contracted with Liz Hanson, who's an expert in the field of sexual harassment, to brief us on all the newest details. Liz, we're all yours.
Thank you very much, Greg. Good morning, everyone. I'm very glad that I can be here with you today, and I hope that by the end of this meeting you feel the same way. So let's get started, shall we? Okay. The laws on sexual harassment have become increasingly more strict for employers over the years. In 1980, the Equal Employment Opportunities Commission issued guidelines stating that sexual harassment was an unlawful employment practice. In 1986, the United States Supreme Court rendered their first major decision on sexual harassment when they affirmed the EEOC's guidelines declaring that sexual harassment was illegal. In 1998, the Supreme Court declared that same-sex sexual harassment was illegal and also imposed automatic liability on employers who allow their supervisors to engage in illegal sexual harassment, which causes a tangible adverse employment action upon the employee. Now, what does all this mean, right? Bottom line, sexual harassment is illegal, and employers now bear the burden to train, educate, and to monitor their employees to prevent this from occurring in the workplace.
Okay, so how do you define sexual harassment?
According to federal agency regulations and some courts, sexual harassment is generally defined as any unwelcomed verbal or physical conduct which is based on sex, which adversely affects an individual's terms or conditions of employment. Now, it's important that you remember that sexual harassment is not an expression of sexuality or sexual desire. It's an inappropriate use of power. You're looking a little confused. Let me show you this. I think it may clear some things up for you. Here we go. Okay, let's begin with this.
Hi, Beth. How's it going?
I'm fine. I'm just
Plans are all set for Florida.
I can't. I mean, really,
Beth, Beth,
trying...
Beth, listen to me. Now, you have got some great attributes. As I've been saying before, use them right. Go to the conference. And, well, with my help, who knows how far you can go in this organization.
But I'm not going to...
I'll tell you what. Why don't we just check my itinerary one more time? In my office. In about, say, 10 minutes? Come on. It'll be fun.
This man's conduct is illegal sexual harassment. It's what the courts have called quid pro quo harassment. That is, this supervisor has implied that submission to his sexual proposition is a condition for Beth's advancement.
What if it wasn't tied to a promotion? Would it still be sexual harassment?
Even if he hadn't tied the promotion to consenting to sexual conduct, the company would still be liable if Beth suffered any type of tangible adverse employment action, such as a demotion, a discharge, even taking away some of her major responsibilities and duties. Actually, a person subjected to sexual harassment can suffer in a number of ways. Loss of a promotion is tangible, right? But harm can be intangible, too, and it can be just as devastating.
Intangible harm?
Absolutely. Sexual harassment can be a very traumatic experience for people. Some people feel humiliated, defaced, they suffer guilt, they feel mental anguish, loss of self-esteem.
We all know that sexual harassment lowers employee morale and productivity, but also remember the companies that fail to recognize sexual harassment lose good employees and also suffer from bad PR.
Wait a minute. Nothing was said. Like you said, it was only implied.
Yes, well, whether it's stated explicitly or it's merely implied, the key to deciding whether any type of unwanted verbal or physical conduct based upon sex is illegal is first to determine whether the person at whom it was directed welcomed the conduct or found it unwanted.
What do you mean?
Well, if it's welcomed, you may have a consensual situation. But if it's unwelcomed or unwanted, then it's illegal, even if it's hidden in innuendo and subtle remarks.
So sexual harassment can be subtle?
Yes, in fact, subtle comments and remarks are oftentimes the most difficult to detect, but it's still very much illegal. Look at this.
Which partner margin? I always forget that. Yeah, Georgia, what is it?
The Nelson account you wanted.
Oh, great. This is great. How's it looking?
Oh, it looks great. Better all the time. They should all look this good, huh? Till tomorrow afternoon, then?
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you.
The second type of sexual harassment to be recognized by the courts throughout the years is called hostile work environment sexual harassment. This is any type of unwelcomed verbal or physical conduct, including words, pictures, or touching, which is based upon sex, which interferes with an individual's terms or conditions of employment, thereby creating an abusive and hostile work environment. Look at this.
Oh, check those out, Neil. Oof. Hey, you know I used to date her?
Yeah, you wish.
I did. All right, her name is, wait, don't tell me. Susan. No, Stacy. Well, I was close.
I'm out of here.
All right. But I'm going to email this photo up to that redhead in accounting with your name on it.
Darn it. 2 hours worth of work.
So, Maggie, you think those are real or she have them work done?
How would I know?
Well, I just kind of figured if anybody would know, it'd definitely be you.
You might just try keeping your comments to yourself.
Sorry. You know, it was a compliment, okay?
Yeah, right.
The man's conduct is sexual harassment. Lewd gestures, any advances that invite sexual activity may be considered sexual harassment.
I have a problem with this, all right? I mean, you can't just hear a joke or see a picture once in a while and cry sexual harassment. I mean, it's everywhere. It's a part of life.
You have a very good point. In fact, the courts have said that occasional teasing, even simple rudeness, should not be confused with sexual harassment. In addition, Title VII was not meant to change or restrict the difference in the way that men and women routinely interact with each other.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, we can't just do business with our hands tied to our sides and duct tape over our mouths.
No, of course not. But when the conduct becomes repetitive and severe, if it's based upon sex, it creates an abusive work environment. It's illegal.
And the other thing to remember is that that kind of behavior, even if it isn't legally considered sexual harassment, it's still not good business, and it shouldn't be tolerated.
Now, maybe I don't think it's harassment, but someone else does. I could be unintentionally harassing someone.
It's very true, but let me give you just a couple of rules to keep in mind that may help, okay? First of all, any type of unwanted physical contact is much more likely to be considered sexual harassment than, say, a few off-color jokes.
Sure, I can understand that.
In addition, the courts have said that the behavior must be something that a reasonable person would find offensive, and that the recipient did, in fact, find offensive from a personal perspective.
You know, that test sounds like it would work in the legal system, but what about the average employee? How do we know we're crossing the line?
Well, the best advice I can give you is that if you have any doubt about what you're about to do, if you think that you may be guilty of harassing conduct, stop, ask yourself this question. Would your behavior be the same if your spouse or significant other, or if your mother and father were there? Or if your actions were going to be printed in the company newsletter?
Yeah.
Another point to remember is that if the recipient has indicated that the behavior is in any way unwelcomed or unwanted, it's become unlawful. Look at this.
Mr. Benson?
Yeah, come on in. Sit down. Say, we have an opening in accounting, and you can start it when we come back.
All this talk about planes and conventions, I don't like it. It's not part of my job.
Hold it. All I'm saying is, the plane leaves at 4 o'clock on the 23rd. It's your decision.
This woman has clearly communicated that she finds the man's sexual advances unwelcomed and unwanted. Not only is this man putting his own career in jeopardy, but his illegal actions threaten the well-being of his entire organization as well.
Because she could sue the organization, right?
Yes, because the courts have said that if this woman suffers any type of tangible adverse employment action, such as a demotion, then this type of supervisory conduct may create an automatic legal liability for the employer.
Even if the employer doesn't know about it?
Yes, because in the court's view, an employer has a special obligation to train, educate, and to monitor supervisors to ensure that this kind of behavior doesn't happen.
So in other words, an organization can't claim ignorance of a situation as a defense in a lawsuit.
That's correct.
All right. Forgive me, Liz, but I have seen the way some people dress and act and talk. It's almost as if they're asking for it.
The courts have said that the way people dress, walk, even their personal mannerisms, cannot be used as an excuse for harassing behavior. However, the courts sometimes review the behavior of people to determine whether the claimed harassing conduct was found offensive or whether it was welcomed.
So dress and talk professionally if you want to avoid sexual harassment.
That's a very good point. You know, the laws on sexual harassment were not meant to deal with every little isolated workplace problem. However, if harassing conduct is truly unwelcome, then the recipient should tell the harasser to stop and should follow that organization's procedures for reporting that harassment if it doesn't cease immediately. Take a look at this.
So, what do you think, Maggie? Yeah, I was just telling Neil here you and her got a lot in common. You know what I mean? Oh.
You know, Ernie, I don't like these pictures one bit. It's just plain degrading.
Well, it's not like we work in some flower shop. I thought you wanted to be one of the guys.
These pictures, your comments, all of it is just sickening.
No, it's just harmless fun. What is your problem?
I don't like it, and I expect it to stop. Do you understand?
Sorry.
No, places like that, shops and factories, places that used to employ men only, they could be tough.
That's very true. But the law indicates that every person has the right to work free from sexual harassment, even if the work environment is less refined than, say, an office situation. Today, many women work in shops and places that previously employed only men. Well, the law is very clear that women working in non-traditional jobs do not need to put up with sexual harassment.
I have a question. What if somebody gets a raise that could have been yours because they gave in to sexual harassment?
Well, then it's very possible you've been the recipient of illegal sex discrimination. Look at this.
John, I was just thinking about you.
Sarah, we need to talk.
Oh, sit down. It's all right.
Thanks.
Sure. You look great. I love that tie.
Listen, I have made all the arrangements for the weekend. Lunch at the beach, dancing, a room overlooking the ocean. What's wrong?
Sarah, I've been thinking about this. The promotion. And I've been thinking about them. There are a lot of other people who deserve this promotion more than I...
It's not your problem.
I still can't. I'm sorry. I just can't go through with this.
John, I thought we had an understanding.
I want the promotion. I just want to move up on my own abilities.
John, either you spend this time with me or you have some decisions to make. I suggest you re-examine your priorities. Listen, it'll be fun. Trust me, okay?
This man has been forced to choose between sexual integrity and economic gain. If he takes the offer and receives the promotion, then his fellow employees may have been unlawfully discriminated against. The EEOC guidelines and some courts have said that if a person receives a job benefit after submitting to sexual advances, then other qualified people might have been the recipient of illegal sex discrimination.
Yeah, but this guy's being harassed by a woman.
Sexual harassment knows no gender or social boundaries. Anyone, male or female, professional or staff, can be the recipient or the harasser. It can be a male-female situation, or it can be two people of the same sex. It really doesn't make any difference.
Hey, Lenny, how you doing?
Hi.
Supposed to give you a hand, huh?
No, I can do it myself.
Come on, loosen up. Don't you ever smile?
I'm fine.
Look, all I'm saying is, you know, we got to work together every day. Could be a little more fun. Or if not, I could make things, I don't know, difficult.
Excuse me.
Think about it, Lenny.
The courts have made it clear that same-sex sexual harassment, that is, men harassing men, women harassing women, is illegal. There's no such thing as an average harasser or recipient. Anyone can be a harasser. Anyone can be the recipient of harassment.
And the harasser may have influence over dozens of people. You know, and it could be even more difficult to deal with if the harasser has economic power over you or your organization.
Yes, and the harasser does not even have to be an employee of your company.
Ooh, nice. Very nice. Excuse me. What time you get off, honey?
Remember, not only can supervisors harass employees and coworkers harass each other, but third parties, people that are not even employed by the organization, can also be involved in this illegal behavior.
Wait a minute. Are you saying, for example, that if we have a customer in here for a week of meetings on a project, and he starts hitting on one of our employees, our organization could be held liable?
Depending upon the circumstances, yes. The law requires the organization that employs the recipient of harassment to prohibit and stop this illegal conduct, even if it's done by an outside vendor or person usually not employed by the organization. It's the employer's duty to ensure that every person has the right to work free from this illegal conduct.
Okay, now that we know more about what it's all about, how does a person prevent sexual harassment?
Well, you should conduct yourself in a businesslike manner, dress and act appropriately. You should learn and follow your organization's procedures for stopping and preventing sexual harassment. The courts have made it very clear that it is every employee's obligation to take advantage of the opportunities provided them by their employer to stop this abusive conduct.
Well, you should also know your grievance procedures.
That's right. Let's just stop right now and see what actions we would take if we were approached.
What if you are approached? What should you do first?
Be direct, be open, be candid, be honest. The best way to stop this kind of illegal conduct is to make your feelings known right away.
Excuse me. Just a minute. I want to tell you something. I've told you this before, and I'm going to tell you again. Please don't touch me. Is that clear?
I'm sorry, okay? I didn't mean anything by it, okay?
Here the woman has taken swift and immediate action in communicating her feelings, but she was cool and professional. In a situation where the harassment is more subtle, you may wish to be diplomatic, be kind but assertive. Keep a level head, but be frank. That may not always be easy. For example, sometimes people just won't take a hint.
Lunch?
No, thanks. Too much to do.
Oh, come on, Joyce. I know you stack a straight shelf. But you really ought to, loosen up a little bit. It could be fun.
Kay, can I talk to you for a minute?
Sure.
Look, I know we're different, and that's okay.
but I am concerned about my feelings. Feelings that these sexual advances are wrong. It's sexual harassment. It's a violation of the law, and it's a violation of me, my rights. Okay?
Come on, Joyce. Why don't you think about it, and we can talk about it some more, maybe over dinner tomorrow. My treat. Okay?
Doesn't look like she's going to take no for an answer.
Right. Recipients of sexual harassment are not obligated to stop the harassment by themselves. However, a recipient should use their employer's procedures and report the harassment according to the proper policies. That might begin with reporting it to your supervisor.
Wait a minute. What if your boss is the harasser?
Well, if your harasser is the boss, then you must immediately review your organization's procedures to find out who else you can report the harassment to. You must take advantage of all of the opportunities provided you by your employer to make sure that you report the harassment to the appropriate person.
I understand what you're saying, but isn't it awfully hard just to walk in and say, I've been sexually harassed?
Yes, it is. But it helps if you're prepared. Write down every detail about the situation. The who, what, when, where, how. You write these things down, of course, so that you don't forget anything. And then go to the meeting, sit down, relax. Try to put your feelings of anger and frustration aside and be as thorough as you can possibly be. Take a look at this.
I feel I've been sexually harassed by Mr. Benson, and I really want it stopped.
Tell me some more about it.
He came up to me 3 days ago and asked me to go on a trip with him, a business trip.
And what did you tell him?
I told him no, and then he kept trying. He said I'd get a good promotion, a move up if I went. It's not right. I just want to do my job.
Well, it sounds as though you have a valid complaint. I'm really glad you brought it to our attention.
I don't really want a lot of people to know all about this.
No, we'll do our best to keep it confidential if at all possible.
He might do something like, I don't know, give me a poor work evaluation or something. He's my supervisor.
You have the right to refuse sexual conduct without any fear of retaliation. We prohibit it, federal courts and agencies prohibit it, and we're going to handle this for you. We're going to take care of it. But first of all, I need you to do something. I need you to talk to Mr. Benson's boss about the situation, okay?
Okay.
So, a good organization is committed to taking immediate corrective action. If you work within the channels of your organization, I think you'll find that it's behind you.
You know, I'm beginning to see that it's important for all of us to do our part to prevent sexual harassment.
Eliminating sexual harassment begins with employee education and training. Every employee, from an entry-level worker to the highest manager, must be able to identify sexual harassment and know how to take proactive steps to stop it. Remember, sexual harassment is unwelcome verbal or physical conduct based upon sex, which adversely affects an individual's terms and conditions of employment. Whether the harassment is quid pro quo harassment by a supervisor or hostile work environment harassment, it's illegal and it must be stopped. The person hurt by the harassing conduct should tell the harasser to stop. If harassment continues, it should be immediately reported using the organization's guidelines. So, even if you just observe harassment in the workplace, never walk away. Report it according to your organization's procedures. And remember, all employees have the right to work in an environment free from sexual harassment and the responsibility to stop this illegal behavior in the workplace.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hanson. Thank you.